Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
Hi, this is Ed Cohen, and I'm in San Diego, California, and today is 23 November 21. And with us today is Dianne Devitt in Chicagoland, and also Ciara in Cork, Ireland. Wow, this is cool. And so, welcome, Kirra.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Nice to meet you, and welcome to Global TV Talk Show. So, Dianne and I have done this half a dozen times already in the last 20 months, or maybe more. And I'd like to call it media training. And not, well, I always need training, but Dianne doesn't need any training, and I'm sure our audience all needs it. So this is all about how we as TV personalities today for the next 30 minutes or so are going to talk about ourselves. That's easy. But we're not going to have any imposter syndrome here. I mean, we are who we are, and that's it. So Ciara, I know you're an author. Why don't you hold up that pretty book cover, and let's get the audience involved. Okay, steps to win in the meetings market. Now, more than ever, everybody is sort of chomping at the bit to get out and go to a meeting. And I'm actually going to go to my first live event on December 3 up in San Francisco.
Great.
The first time since March 1 of 2020. And I'm vaccinated, I'm ready to go. but up until now, just 2 days ago when I booked it, I said, oh, geez, I don't want to go to a meeting. Oh, my God. Yeah, it's good to see and be seen, that's for sure. But I'm not going to get any new business from going to this thing. But I said, oh, I got to break this mold. I got to get out and go to a meeting. So Ciara, you've written this book. It's from your experience, right? And the idea is not so much who you know, who's going to be in that room, but who knows you the way you want them to know you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's your take on that? On who knows you rather than who you know?
Yeah, well, I think what's really, really important right now is that people are just themselves, and they're that real, authentic you know, and that comes across. But I think people will feel that they know you a lot more, Ed, because they've been following you, if they've seen you on video over the last 18 months. It's amazing the power of that. I was at IBTM World a few years ago now at this stage, and I was up at the bar and I was chatting with a lady from Russia, hello Natasha, who was in my workshop earlier on that day, and she turned and she introduced me to another girl that she was speaking with, and she said, oh, hi, yeah, I know you. And then I was trying to think, I was like, oh, how do you know me? Were you in the workshop today? And she said, no. She says, I know you from your LinkedIn videos, you know? So I was like, wow, you know, the power of that. So if people have been smart over the last 18 months, it's been a fabulous way to stay visible and to really make a connection with people. And, you know, we all have been craving that, and more power to you, Ed, that you're making that big jump and heading off to San Francisco December 3rd. You know, I don't know of anybody who has come back from having been to a meeting or a trade show or a conference in the last few months, you know, for the first time since lockdown and all of that. I don't know of anybody who's regretted it, you know. So let's get out there as us as leaders in the event industry, in our industry. I think it's really important that we are doing that, and, you know, staying safe in the way that we all know how to.
And with us in Chicago, Dianne Devitt, who's a media maven, a trainer, and a professor at NYU. Welcome again, Dianne.
Thank you, Ed. And listen, just to clarify too, for the audience members, because they're so diverse, IBTM, Kira, what is it? International Business Travel
And meeting
meetings
market.
and meetings market.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's
coming up in Barcelona, November 29th to December 2nd or 3rd.
It's a big show, Ed. And the reason we bring it up is because it's people in the business of meetings and travel. And so obviously we all want wheels up on the planes and heads in beds in the hotels. And, you know, under, like you say, with all the precautions you need to take. So, yeah.
Yeah. So with the variant, what are the mutations coming back, especially across Central Europe, it's getting a little scary, isn't it?
Well, some people are taking more precautions than others from what I've recently read as of yesterday. I think time will tell, and we'll see how that domino effect occurs.
Yeah, right. It's pretty scary looking at the pictures in the newspaper today from Vienna, Austria, and nobody's out, empty streets, and it's just craziness. So, can we see that book cover again, Ciara? There was a picture of steps, 1, 2, 3, and that's the name of the book. So, steps to win what? Win new business, right?
Well, I'm actually, it is. It's about a sales mindset, and it's about building relationships that win business with your clients. And it's the kind of relationship that a client wants and needs to have. And you'll notice, I'm quite sure, the difference between companies that you work with when they're very transactional and it's just about sending a quote. And a lot of that has definitely happened over the last number of years. And I got a lot of calls last year from panicked director of sales saying, Kira, my team do not have strong enough relationships in order to survive in a downturn market. And so that connection piece, them feeling, you know, what is the difference that they're making to people's lives, that's really, really important for teams to be able to see that right now. You know, buyers are happy to stay behind the screen. McKinsey brought out a report just late last year saying that 76% of buyers were going to remain virtual for the unforeseeable future. And so what does that say? That is that it's here to stay. That ability to build a relationship through a screen is here to stay. And then being able to transfer those skills into the people to people or that in-person environment also is really, really important. But I've actually decided to rewrite that book because I went through a big transformation over the last 18 months myself. In 2019, I knew that I was ready to work outside of the events and hospitality industry, but 2020 was that push to do that. And so I'm really enjoying working with leaders in pharmaceutical companies, in banking industry, and in tech companies, and discovering how I can help them. But a lot of them have this same problem, is really, how do I get the team to open up and have conversations with people and to build that relationship and get to know them, get to know what their why is, what their purpose is, and be able to align then how their company, their service, their product, their expertise can help fix the problems that clients have.
So I want to transition now over to Dianne and then circle back to you and make this highly interactive at all in every corner. So a lot has to do with learning how to act, learning how to behave, or learning how to emote on camera. Like me, I'm shaking my hands. So I'm looking like, I mean, if we were standing at a booth or something, we'd be doing this and we'd all be engaged and smile a little bit, right? And so a lot of people who go on camera, they are scared shitless. They don't want to, they don't,
Bleep, bleep, bleep.
they can't imagine Is my hair okay? Or is my shirt on straight or what, and, this kind of thing. So by emoting or by gesturing somehow, you don't
Yeah, I
look
know.
like a madman or a mad lady or crazy person. So Dianne, you always have said to me, it's imagining what color you have around you or on. All right.
Well, yeah.
Because what color is this meeting? Well, it's Kirra, you're blue.
Right. Well, the thing is, I think there's a couple things that they're touching upon is just to what Ciara was talking about is people, it doesn't matter which industry you're in. We're all working off of the same stage right now, which is the screen in front of you, whatever size that screen is. That's number one. Number two is, yes, just like you bring up, Ed, it's the comfort factor, because getting used to looking in to the right space on your screen is not like looking at your eyes. The computers are not that evolved yet where we can actually make eye contact and it will adjust and look like we're normal, right? Having a normal eye-to-eye contact. Now that, with regard to sales, is critical, because I'm going to believe you if you're looking at me and I can see the authenticity and the honesty
So what about
in your
with
presentation, right?
with or without glasses?
I don't trust you no matter what, so get off it. Don't even try to think that I would trust you. Forget it. I'm a
Wait.
New Yorker at heart anyway.
And so, wait, would it be better if I wear these or these?
Those, I think.
Those.
Yeah, because I'm more transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I just
Which
dropped
is a
my.
whole. Yes. Well, glasses are a whole.
I just
separate
dropped my
discussion.
$100 thing here. Wait a minute.
You see how excited I make people.
You have them all nerves, Dianne.
I'm telling you,
I
it
know,
takes a lot of
Virtually, you
practice.
have this impact on him.
I have an impact. I know I can make people uncomfortable in a moment.
Well,
But anyway,
we've known each other
but-
now a year and a half.
Yes, getting back to getting back to the whole circle of how I think this is all intertwined is, when we were asked to think about people going back to work, right, and physically going back. I mean, there's a couple of issues that tie into what you just asked too, Ed. And Kirra, just jump in here. Is the comfort factor on a screen and being this open with one another, because it's and this is what I'm so intrigued about, is that there's a certain protection when you're behind a screen. It's almost puppet-like. Because you have, like in theater, they say you have that fourth wall, which is between the first row of the audience and the stage, is that space. Well, we now have that space between where we're physically sitting and where our cameras are located. And I can change your perception of me based on where I'm sitting and how I'm looking into the camera in terms of authenticity. I bring that into this conversation just as a point of, some people to this day have refused to even be on camera.
Right.
Right, Kirra? So
That's
how do you sell with that mindset?
Well, you sell to certain people, I suppose, who perhaps just want your product. But if it's a high-end value product, and if they're the type of people who need a relationship, then that's really, really difficult. But it's amazing the amount of people I've been on calls with, and they still don't have a laptop with a camera, or their desktop doesn't have a camera, and for companies not to be providing that at this stage, that's really difficult. Them, tuning into company-wide meetings, and they don't have the ability to have themselves on screen. So, you know, that's one thing. But another interesting point, Dianne, also, so that's the visual part, you know, and people need to see your hands, because they, you know, they can only see from here up, and it helps to build trust when they're able to see more of you. But somebody said to me recently that they find it's a whole other level of listening, that listening is harder in the virtual world. And I think that's really true. Like physically, we actually listen with our eyes also, and our cues, and we're looking at somebody's mouth and expressions, and you're tuning into how they feel or how emotive they are about something based on that. But when either the camera is on or off, you really have to tune in and listen. But also there's more distractions around you, and they can't see what else is on in your environment. And so you have to bring yourself back to being focused in on the conversation and that person that you are speaking with. You know, if you were in a meeting with, you know, there's a few people at a meeting, your eyes might wander around the room, but you can't, you know, get up and do too many things. But in the virtual environment, you have that freedom to, you know, to have too many other distractions going on. And so it just takes bringing you back and zoning in and really, really listening.
Right. For this conversation, and I'll say this, if you don't mind, like you're using hands for this conversation that we're having, we've evolved to it being acceptable. But when we first got on camera, this was just too distracting, because people needed to get used to focusing on the camera, and then just on the fact of seeing people without any distraction. No earrings. No, I always say that. I mean, I would never have worn this last year. It would have been like sending you a text with capital letters, with uppercase, like shouting at you. So yeah, we've evolved to a comfort factor of where we can say yes and put our hands up, and it doesn't distract, you know. But anyway, like anyway, they had, not to get off the topic, but that is important. It actually is very important from a sales and communication point of view to be able to come across that way, because that's the humanness of it. And then I'm going to trust you, aren't I?
So Kirra, on sales training, do you focus on women or men?
Both.
Yeah. And who's easier?
I would say whoever has the most open mind. I wouldn't say that it's a male or female thing. Whoever is eager and really wants to get to the next level of their success. If somebody comes into a training scenario and they're like, what can you teach me? I've been doing this for years. Then it takes a little bit more work. But I've been doing virtual training since 2014. So I've figured out a lot of that, and I've figured out that it's too much. I mean, remember last year, people were jumping on, and they were trying to literally do what was being done in a face-to-face environment online. And that was just too exhausting for people. Like our capacity to stay awake and focused for that length of time is just not there. So it's always about smaller, more powerful pieces of training and experience, and then making it interactive, and never ever just trying to do all the talking and just PowerPoint people to that. You know, that didn't work in the face-to-face environment, and it definitely doesn't work in the virtual environment. But a big part, Ed, is creating that connection. So I would layer my approach to people, and I think that's really important even for you going to the December 3rd meeting. Try to connect with people beforehand, find out who is going. And if you have made some connection with somebody, whether it's through LinkedIn, through having a phone conversation, through just, you know, over and back messaging on LinkedIn even, then you feel like you're walking into the room to a few people that you know, and that's going to make you feel more comfortable. And I think that's really important, that people are creating that space. and Dianne for that, to reference that amazing article that you wrote. When leaders are trying to get their team back together, how are you? It's not to do it all at once. It's to do it in micro pieces, to build that trust level that little bit slower, perhaps. Like I started playing football this year. I joined a women's football team in September for the first time.
Can we correct that for the Americans? Like,
it's not American football, it's the Irish football. So
okay,
it's
thank you.
Soccer.
Right. Thank you.
It's
Thank
not
you.
soccer though. It's Irish. You can't. In soccer you can't do handball. In a Gaelic football you can.
Interesting.
So it was just women. It's called Mothers and Others, and it's a group of women. There was 60 or 70 of us that started out. And some of us, not me, some women had experience and were on regional teams and were on All Ireland teams. And then there was other people like me who hadn't played since, I'd never played football. I played hockey when I was in school. But you know what? It was fabulous to watch how people really started to trust each other and get to know each other over the 6 weeks. But, we had so much fun. I don't think I've laughed like that in an hour in a long time. And we were mainly laughing at ourselves because you're aiming for the goal that way and you're trying to pass a ball to a girl that way, but it could go that way. So we were mainly laughing at ourselves. But it was outdoors. It was a fun, healthy way to really get to know people and to build those all important trust and confidence levels. So I was thinking that'd be a great thing for teams to do: get people together outside, having a bit of fun, and remembering what it was like to work together in the office, and then slowly introduce getting back into the office.
So let's talk about being live in a meeting. Okay, like for instance, I'm flying into San Francisco, which is about a 1-hour flight, and going to the Palace Hotel, which is like 8-star, excuse me, for a lunch of 150 people, and we haven't seen these people in almost 2 years, and so we have to assume everyone's vaccinated. You have to have proof. You have to show proof that you've got the booster or the vax or something. But so what do you do? What should I do? Should I bring hand sanitizer in my pocket so that if I shake hands with somebody, I immediately?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. First of all,
what do we do without offending
first
people?
of all, this conversation can't be long enough to even answer that question. But going back to what, what I will say is there's no worry, and any good organizer will take care of it. What I would say is go back to what Kirra was saying. When you do go, it will be interesting, Ed, because I think that's also part of what people are going through regarding going back to work physically is just the feelings that you're going through going back to this meeting for the first time. There's a certain apprehension of what's it going to be. I make the analogy of you take your finger out of a glass of water, that's how quickly you adjust again. Yeah. So we have become victims of habit and this is what I also pointed out in the article there, that it's very easy to develop a habit. If you remember, people resisted getting online for meetings when COVID first happened, right, Kirra?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal. What do you mean I have to stay home? Where am I going to work? What is my workplace station going to look like? Well, then we got over that hurdle, and the dog barking and the baby and the person putting up your screen while you're talking is going on. And now we're all used to these distractions, right? In the same way, getting back to work and commuting again is breaking a habit. I
have to wear business shoes and socks.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
Who says? Why don't you wear your flip-flops?
Well, I'm wearing slippers right now.
Well, start getting used to it.
I'm not sure my feet will fit in there. I don't know.
Well, start getting used to it. But the thing is, I do think that with people, with people going back to work, going to attend meetings, going to anything that requires being with other people is just getting out and doing it again, because we're not going to be living behind screens our whole life.
Right.
And I am talking about the context of everything being done according to protocol and compliant to what the situation is. That's a whole given in this conversation, but it's too much of a ubiquitous situation right now. I'm dumbfounded that wherever I go, there are signs up looking for help in every business sector.
Yeah.
And that is incredulous to me.
People found other work, or they just don't care, or they're somehow getting by.
I don't know the whole answer, and I will say part of this, that I can speak from the hospitality industry, and some of the rhetoric that I've read is there are those people who love what they do, and regardless if you're working on a holiday or you're working a 20-hour day, you just do it because it's part of the job. Whether you're a doctor or a nurse or a pilot on an airplane or a meeting planner or a producer, you just do it. Then there were those who say, well, I got used to being with my family and this, not to mention, of course, in the States, Kirra, we all got paid to stay home. People were paid a substantial amount of money, more than they ever made in the working part of their lives. So if a family was bringing in $3,000 a week, if 5 people were getting $600, that's substantial income. Why should I go back to work for, minimum wage? So there's a lot of questions about that. And I'll shift one thing about it, where I feel companies are sort of like parents now, is if I, as the CEO and the owner of a company, I have an obligation to keep that company afloat, just like you do, Ed, right? I mean, you got to think of a way for this, that you keep it going, you're working, you're putting your investment. So people are either going to be part of that and passionate about it or not. I don't know. I don't know the whole answer, but it's sure changing the work environment, and it's changing the way people are communicating, right, Kirra? I mean, I don't know the answer.
So at NYU, in your classes, what are you planning to do, if you're not already doing it, on this very, very topic?
With my students?
Yeah.
I have to say, I've been teaching virtually the last few semesters. My students can't wait to get out to work, the majority of them, the 21 and the 22-year-olds, the graduates. They have received an education. It's flip-flopped, right? Their education has been online, but also their education online has allowed them to meet people like Kirra, who can come into the class, or the CEO of an association, who in normal times could never, the time would never allow that kind of a visit. But in terms of getting back to work and going out to an office, I would say the majority, I would say 95% of the young people want to get back.
Yeah. So I'm reading one of your notes here about nomadic life. So what do you mean by that? I have an idea, but be specific.
Well, I personally, and I don't know how this is in Europe, but I personally know 4 people and 2 business owners, CEOs of active companies, who just lost a parent or went through some kind of a significant change with COVID. And they just decided that they were going to get up and lead this nomadic life. So what did they do? They planned their year. They planned it out. So 1 month in New York, 1 month Washington, D.C., 1 month Florida, 1 month Seattle, 1 month here. That's one couple. The other ones, they don't know where they're going to be the next month. They registered with some kind of an agency that tells them who needs someone to house sit for them. So they go in as sort of an au pair. It's a senior couple in their 60s, husband and wife. They're going to be in Mexico for a month as of next week. They never know where they're going to be. So I think this time that we've been in has sort of put people in this, I can work anywhere. I can survive anywhere. Gee, let me go explore. And I think that that's a whole nother, train of thought with it, right?
Well, so I've got a friend who has a grown daughter who's about 30, and the daughter is in the advertising business, originally based in Hollywood, and company is based, company is Comcast, okay? And so, and it's work from anywhere. They don't care as long as the work gets done. All right. And so this young lady is living in Manhattan the past couple of months and coming home for Christmas and then going to Miami and going to work in Miami at least through the winter, if not longer. All right. And it's just do the work, long as you have high speed.
Yeah. If I didn't have kids, I'd say I probably would be a lot more open to just heading off and doing that, Like one of the most liberating experiences I had was when I lived in New York and I worked in an advertising agency, and I just decided that New York was getting to me. I could feel anger coming from my belly one Friday when I was getting on the train, the commute home. And I just said, that's it, I'm going to leave. And within 3 weeks, I hopped into a convertible and I drove to San Francisco with 4 of my best friends from Ireland. And, it was a fabulous experience.
It wasn't New York. It was the fact that you needed a change that propelled your anger. Not that New York didn't make you angry. You made yourself angry.
Let me either way, I listened to myself.
But I do, but again, if people don't have the ties, as you said, or the, it's a lot more fluid now. But getting back to that, Ed, as well, is here's a situation that came up with me, is that a CEO asked me for some thoughts on this concept of what would be a good way to get some people back, or what are my thoughts on it, right? And one thing that came up in my research was that when the pandemic hit, a lot of people just upped and moved to places that were less expensive than where the company was located, right? So if the company was located somewhere in San Francisco Bay Area, housing would be a lot more expensive than if I live in a town in Texas or wherever.
Yeah.
So here's the situation. In this case, the employee that moved did not ask for permission, just moved. So now that the company wants to open up and this person is now living miles away, whose fault is that? In other words, you're the CEO of the company. You didn't give permission to people. Not your fault that the pandemic happened. You're trying to keep the lights on. So that's another situation. Now, I'm not saying there's not a half and half and you can work virtually and this and that, but again, I put myself in my CEO business hat. If I have a company to run, depending on the company, I want to see people there eventually. I don't know.
It's about a cartoon I saw. I don't know whether it was in Forbes or Inc. couple of months ago. I just can't get it out of my head. It's this white guy wearing a tie, no suit coat, and he's like that, crazy, saying, "I'm managing empty chairs."
Well, and again,
Doesn't know what to do.
and again, Kirra, this is where your expertise comes in. I remember as a child, right? Here's the house, here's the steeple, open it up, out comes the people or the church or something. Whether it's a church or a business or whatever it is, it's all about people. So, we spoke earlier about connections and Ed, you will experience what Kirra was touching on, because a lot of my work is in sensory communication. There is nothing that takes the place of listening without your ears, but listening with everything else in your body. And that's the visceral part of what we've missed online, that face-to-face is irreparable, is just, you have to have it to have true empathy with someone. So yeah, so like I say, that's where I'm about. Yeah, I know there's always instances, but you've got companies to run. Until we get businesses back, cities like Chicago and San Francisco, look at what's happening to San Francisco, Ed. I'm sick about it.
What's happening?
And New York. Well, I mean, just the fact, like the looting that was on TV last night, and all of this.
I didn't. Oh, yes, that's right. They went
Okay.
into a suburb. Yeah.
I mean, all these different things are happening. My point is that when business is back, big business is back, look at all the domino effect of smaller businesses that are going to pick up again.
So what you're saying is that having people back in offices is a behavioral thing.
Mhm.
And a mental thing as well, a societal control thing, not more government, martial law, but there's just more regulations. I mean,
Well,
in a
that is
business, you don't do this, you do that.
Yeah, but how do you come up, like Kirra, if Kirra and I were working together in the same department and we were just sitting together, there's a greater chance that the two of us would have a brainstorming session or ideation, or in other words, when you're right there with people.
And it would happen like that. Right.
Like that.
Right. Hi, this is Ed, and I thank you for tuning in to Global TV Talk Show, a unit on globalbusinessnews.net. We broadcast to the world, as you know by now. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our programs are advertising supported. We're grateful for co-sponsors, advertisers. They have a marketing budget coupled with a strong desire to be associated with our top quality program. And of course, I'm grateful. Thank you. So for the next few minutes, you're going to see some commercials. It's mostly very low key, and our prices are very, very reasonable. Our exposure for the advertisers go 12 months and beyond. Some of our advertisers have been with us since March, April of 2020. And Google Analytics has tracked over 125,000 what they call audience page views, which means you looking at this page, that's a page view. Now, if you happen to go to one of our other shows or to our radio broadcasts or to our newspaper or magazine, those become additional page views as measured by Google Analytics. And so when they say 125,000 since spring of 2020 up through Labor Day, a month ago, that's pretty good numbers. And the past 30 days, Google Analytics has measured just under 6,000 audience page views. And that, according to them, is a 42% increase in audience participation over the month of August. So thank you very much. Well, here's our advertisers, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes or so, and we'll proceed with this interesting conversation. Thank you.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we are researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
So let's just say for a second, I mean, this is November 23, the year 21. Over the weekend, there was this tragedy in Waukesha, Wisconsin, wherever that is, which is just crazy. And then this thing in Walnut Creek, a suburb in East Bay, San Francisco, and somebody in Atlanta airport had a gun that went on. I mean, it's nuts. But is it that people are, so many people, and everybody's different, of course. So it's just a law of numbers that there's going to be wackos out there and weird things happen because of population growth, or is it because there's a breakdown of order of how things work? But they're not anymore.
Right. Well, listen, Kirra, I don't know if you're familiar with this terrible things that happened in the States over the last few days, but the bottom line is that I think, again, it goes back to what I was saying. When I call it the big return or people going back to an office and having some form, when society loses respect for order, then you have disorder and chaos and all sorts of things come with that. Total lack of respect and decorum and anything that you do.
So there's a severe action, and it's going to reverberate into a severe reaction.
It's going to reverberate. And the thing is, if the cities are empty and they're not, and transportation isn't being used, public transportation, we're basically opening the door for trouble and for losing that sense of order. Now, and again, we all had to be respectful for the pandemic. We all have to be respectful. And I'm not saying to go from 0 to 180 and everyone return to work 9 to 5, get on the train, get on the bus, get in. No, but I do think that there's ways that a couple of companies that I know of are handling it and that are a little bit of both, that are a combination of both.
So you talk about incentive programs that some are using. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Kirra, I was talking about like motivation and incentive programs. What do people do in sales? I'm curious, like, I was bringing that up to Ed. If you bringing people back, like our whole world is motivation programs and incentive programs. And I think each company would be different. Mm-hmm. But how do you motivate salespeople?
Well, I think it's a little bit more than the numbers and offering financial rewards and incentives. That only goes so far. I was speaking with a senior, he was really one of the top hitters and winners for a company. He was always exceeding his quota. And he decided to leave the company. They wanted to offer him more money and do this and that. And he wanted to leave because he didn't feel that he connected with the company. He didn't feel that there was a sense of purpose there. He felt the company was really, really transactional. There's that word again. And he went to a company where he felt his talent was doing better, or doing better in the world. So it's about aligning what was important to them. I spoke with I've clients all around the world, and I spoke with a client in Dubai this morning, and she was saying they're 100% back in the office, and their clients are 100%. And
really,
yeah, and they are back visiting clients in the office and entertaining. Their leisure business is off the charts, and they can literally just named price. And
Now, is
people
this in the hotel industry? Like, was this someone
in the industry in
Interesting.
yeah, but the corporates are back and they're open, and you're able to go visit them and have that lunch and, you know, make those all important connections. Of course, the thing is now it's hard to get people's time. It was easier to get people's time when everything was virtual. So my advice is, while you can carve out conversations with your clients to do that and have that virtual cup of tea, have that virtual cup of coffee, because it makes that step into meeting them face to face all that much easier. Somebody feels that they know you because they've been, you know, building a relationship and connecting with you over the last number of months, then it's much easier to make that step into the okay, let's
That's a really good point, Ed. We're, you know, we're so used to being accessible to some point, but what about when I have to say, oh, I have to travel to Ireland to meet with Kirra, and that's going to take me a day and a half versus a Zoom call?
Yeah.
Big difference.
Big differences, right? Yeah. So on my business trip to San Francisco, I'm excited about this. So it's no hotel. It's just up in the morning, 7 a.m. flight and a 5:30 return flight. I have to pay for the registration for the meeting, which includes food. But I used miles to fly up and back. All right. And I'm going to use Uber to go 10 minutes to the airport each way. And I don't have hardly any expense, some, but not a lot. And so to me, this was a doable thing, as opposed to just what you were saying. If I were to go to a meeting that I really, really wanted to go to in Chicago last month, I would have had to spend at least 2 nights in the Hyatt. And round trip, even on Southwest Airlines, which is like Ryanair.
Hey, Ed, you're giving all these companies a plug. They better be paying you for this.
I hope they're sponsored.
Forget that. Don't be naming hotels. What?
Yeah, right. So anyway, now they owe me, right? Nah, right. So that would have been like $2,000 or $3,000 and 4 days of not doing anything else efficiently anyway. Okay, never mind being away, and never mind being at risk. God, if there's a risk out there. So this is a really big hurdle, and until you think that through and really understand not just the idea of making an appointment and getting ready to go and then going, it's way different. That's going to take some time to become normal again. I think there'll be a burst. People run out. Yeah, let's go have a business luncheon, and
well,
okay, then what?
I think the events really have to step it up another level, and that it needs to be an amazing experience that they're going to. That people will be a lot more discerning as to what they will give their time to, and their budget to attend. If it's a regular meeting, you can do it on Zoom. You know, those ones will happen. So I think people will be a lot more selective as to what they go to. And I'm excited to see how the events industry already is and will step it up another level, because it's a brilliant industry.
I am too. And I am too, Kirra. I'm really excited because what this has done, and again, this is all part of this concept of the big return, because the correlation of the value of going to work and the domino effect of that. The same thing is in the meetings and events industry, Ed. What's happening now is meeting planners need to go to their stakeholders and say, let's really figure out the objective and goals of this meeting. Let's really figure out if people have to physically be there. So it's very exciting because it opens things up globally, it opens things up regionally, and it makes the value of the meeting and event that much more important. because when the live event does come, there's no choice but to go.
So unfortunately, we have to bring this to a close. I'd like to invite you both back so we can go chapter 2 and go deeper. It's been exciting and nice to meet you, Kirra.
Thank
And
you.
If you want to hold up that book again. And Dianne, you have a book. Do you have it handy?
Yes, she does.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do. Yes, I do. I have my book here. I have my What Color is Your Event book right here. Yes. And I have my second book called To Lead, but I'm ashamed that I don't have a copy right in front. So we'll get you the cover. Okay, Ed?
Yeah, do that. Okay, and so I thank you, Kirra, for being on a Global TV talk show. And
Pleasure.
Dianne, please come back.
Thank you, Ed, as always. And a happy Thanksgiving to you.
And to you. Thank you for doing
Likewise.
this. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks a million,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.